Okay. Can you hear the soundboard?
Are you using it?
Yeah, I'm hitting some buttons right now.
Absolutely not. No.
All right, it's just going to be a surprise.
Oh, there we go.
Did you hear that one?
I did. I heard that.
Wow. That one?
Heard it.
Whoa. One more time. Did you hear that?
No. Yes.
Welcome to the show! It's the Moxstars podcast. I'm Evan Kunai, one of your hosts, and I'm here with Christopher Ritter.
What's up?
Let's kick some ass. Let's talk about Magic cards. If you would like to support the show, you can do so by finding us on YouTube. You can like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more notifications. You can find us on all major podcasting platforms where you can give us a 5-star review and we look super cool, just like our theme song, we're super cool. You can also find us on Patreon. You can support us on Patreon by joining our supporter tier where you become an official Pepperhead, because this is the #1 podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper.
Both those things. Yeah.
Both those things, and they're wonderful. Both those things are very, very fun and great. You can also join our Discord community server, where if you are a supporter on Patreon, you get access to 2 exclusive channels, the Shower Thoughts channel and the Dr. Pepper channel. And today, let's just get right into it. We have a couple pre-game actions. I hope you all enjoyed that nice deep breath of fresh air without any new Magic products. Because it's over.
It's over, yeah.
Yeah. And to kick us off, and we'll kind of go in chronological order, we got some new Doctor Who cards exclusive to a secret lair.
Yeah, there's 3 of them that I can see, right?
Yeah, I think only 3 new mechanically unique cards introduced. It's another way. I'm wondering if at any point in time we'll get a reskinning of these, because this is sort of that dangerous territory that the Walking Dead secret lair was, treading on. Was that, hey, you can literally get these one time only. So it's kind of a weird thing for them to do, but I'm wondering if we'll get reprints in the future. If you're unaware, the 14th Doctor is 1 Gruul hybrid mana, a white mana, and a blue mana. So technically 4 colors. Is a 3/4 legendary creature, Time Lord Doctor. When you cast this spell, reveal the top 14 cards of your library, put all Doctor cards revealed this way into your graveyard and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may have the 14th Doctor enter the battlefield as a copy of a Doctor card in your graveyard that was put there from your library this turn. If you do, it gains haste until end of turn. So actually, pretty great ability here. I'm not upset about this. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's a great outlet. I mean, on its face, 4 colors. There's a couple companions that can get you all 5 colors. Mm-hmm. And then, you can just do any food chain thing that you want, because he's going to be your outlet, by copying, something that hit your graveyard that turn by the ETB.
Yeah, there's a couple Doctors out there. God, I wish I had them.
Doctors and changelings, by the way.
Yeah. So that's actually great to note, is that you can actually hit a changeling off of this with the food chain thing and have it become a copy of that. I know that we've been talking about the way that the rules interact with things like Pantlaza, where Pantlaza says this triggers only once each turn. So when it leaves the battlefield and comes back in, it's a new permanent, so it triggers again. This is going to see, and notably in the text, it says, it becomes a copy of a Doctor card in your graveyard that was put there from your library this turn, which is why it works with Food Chain, is because you're infinitely casting the 14th Doctor after going infinite with, here's the great thing. It has access to Naya plus blue. So,
yep.
Yeah, you get Academy Rector. You can go for Food Chain that way. You can also, you get access to Squee, a couple more efficient Food Chain lines. And so this, after generating infinite mana with Squee, probably, This bounces up infinitely, revealing pretty much every card in your library. And then you pick whichever doctors you're going to run in the deck. You're going to see them if you pull the combo off.
Well, actually, before we go ahead, you can also draw your entire library by casting the 14th Doctor infinitely by using Rose Noble in the same drop as your companion. Because whenever you cast a Doctor spell or a creature spell with Doctor's companion, you draw a card.
Yeah, and this is
so you can have that effect in the command zone without including Squee.
Right, and I think that's actually, for me, I know that the dudes in the Discord server were talking about having access to like all 5 colors or like switching it up and having a few different ones. I actually think Rose Noble as a Doctor's companion is the best to be paired with the 14th Doctor, because it's very similarly mirrors Omnath, and I wonder if you just you play Omnath instead. But it's a Locus of Creation, the 4-color one, because it says when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. So with Food Chain, same color combination and everything. Food Chain, it just goes infinitely, you draw your whole library. This doesn't necessarily mean you have to. Like, that can also be a trap when you go trigger to draw your entire library. As we'll talk about later, there are a lot of ways to punish card draw in certain ways, and this actually gets around that. While you are casting something infinitely, the 14th Doctor is going to allow you to see cards without having to do that. Just having Rose Noble as the companion allows you to do it if you're able to put a Silence out there or a Grand Abolisher.
Yeah. I mean, I think just big picture, it's worth exploring with any number of the Doctor's companions. Like, I mean, in the past we've liked K9 a lot. That doesn't get you 5 colors, but yeah, there's options.
Yeah, I think the big thing with K9 that we were talking about in the Discord conversation was having the ability to Neoform or Eldritch Evolution into Dockside. So like that was the big conversation around K9 once it was released, was like, oh man, like this is, if we can find the right Doctor and put K9 with it, we can have way easier access to Dockside if we can do that.
I mean, you have the colors right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. And that's so do I usurp Rose Noble with K9 because it's far cuter and gets to Dockside easier?
Worth exploring, for sure.
Worth exploring, yes. Okay, so one of the Doctors that I think a lot of people are talking about is the Fugitive Doctor in here. So if you reveal that, it enters the battlefield, you investigate. So it just comes in, you generate infinite clues, and then you can just use your infinite mana to, well, you have to find infinite mana, but there's also one that enters the battlefield and creates a treasure.
Which one?
I'm trying to find it right now.
Okay. You also have the other like individual food chain doctors that people had looked at, like the 3rd Doctor and the 8th Doctor.
Yeah, the 3rd Doctor is the one I'm talking of. Is the one I was meaning to talk about.
Okay, yeah.
When the 3rd Doctor enters the battlefield, create your choice of a clue, a food, or a treasure. So there's a few options you have. So you're not just like aimlessly. You increase your chances essentially of hitting something off of this.
Yeah, it gives you a few different lines. I feel like.
Yeah, and more than anything, I think you can actually just create value out of this deck if you did want to build it to its tippy top peak CDH potential. You could build it to have it grind for value because you have access to like Rhystic Study and stuff like that. But then you can also, if you don't want to take it to the tippy top CDH level, this is also going to make a really fun casual commander because you get to just work with all of the Doctors in any way you want to, in any combination, and the 14th Doctor stimulates all of those strategies.
Yeah, for sure. If you're like playing the game to have fun, I don't know any people like that, but like, there you go. I mean, it's the Doctor for you because it lets you do all the Doctor Who stuff. Like if you're enthusiastic about that IP and like that's what's bringing you into the game, or like you just love that in addition to loving the game, like, and you just want to play with all the cards without having to choose, like, here's your option.
Yeah. There's just the, like, you know, to say that we don't know anybody who plays for fun. I think we all play for fun. We just realize how expensive the game is, and that it makes
Yeah,
things
I was
less
just being
fun.
a little facetious.
Totally. I've been seeing so many memes lately about the cost of what it is to build a commander deck, and they're all very much on the nose. $3,000 is not out of the range of possibilities to build like a commander deck from scratch.
Not even super optimized.
Right. Yeah, that's man, crazy stuff. Anyway, the doctor stuff. There's one other card we haven't talked about yet. The Celestial Toymaker. This is an Esper commander, legendary creature, rogue artificer. Just costs 1 white, 1 blue, and 1 black. Whenever the Celestial Toymaker attacks, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Exile any number of them in a face-down pile and the rest in a face-up pile. Defending player chooses one of those piles, put that pile into your hand. So a fact or fiction type effect. At the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses 2 life for each spell or ability that caused one or more players to guess or to group cards or permanents into a pile this turn. 2-4.
That's a lot of clauses to figure out what's going to happen.
I am so shocked. This actually, I feel like it doesn't work within the rules, and they're just like, we're going to write a new page for it. We're going to write a few dozen more paragraphs to make sure this works the way we want it to.
Yeah, we're going to see the Gatherer updates when this publishes. Right?
Yeah, this just seems like such an insane effect. Yeah, I don't. They've printed a lot of different cards that actually allow you to group things. So each opponent loses 2 life for each ability. You got to get a lot of triggers off of this.
I don't know how you get a lot of triggers off of it because what? Like if you're gonna make a pile, a lot of times you're just trying to win right there, right?
Totally. I guess intuition. No wait.
Yeah, hostile negotiations, things like that. Like I like those effects, but I just don't see the way to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and 2 life for 1 trigger isn't like notably powerful. I know that like 2 life starts to matter after a certain amount of time, but I would say you probably have to get about 10 of these triggers to like really contribute to the overall outcome of the game.
Evan, are you saying that you need like 10 triggers where a player loses 2 life to like affect the outcome of the game?
Yeah, I do think that.
I think that's a little preview of what we're going to talk about in the main topic.
I almost knew what you were getting at, and then I was like, we're not there yet, though. Because
Sorry, yeah, no, I'm just a little preview.
Yeah, you're excited.
People listening to the end of the episode.
Yeah, you're right. Stay tuned. We're going to be talking about 10 triggers that affect the outcome of the end of the game. But these aren't the only 3 cards that we saw in the last week since you heard from us last. We also have new cards from Murder at Karlov Manor. It's Ravnica based, so we're seeing a lot of new a lot of familiar stuff, characters that we've seen in the past, but then we're also seeing a new character. I'm wondering if we're going to get a Knives Out secret lair for this, because
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean they have the Clue IP already tied in.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, so along with these spoiled cards, which Wizards of the Coast came out, they gave us a little teaser trailer and said, hey, stay tuned. January 16th is when we're going to start revealing, like spoiling the cards for Karlov Manor. And then no less than 24 hours later, they're like, here's 20 cards. So just to go through a few of these cards, the thing is, I'm still very comfortable in where I am mentally as a Magic player. Like, while this is new content and this is like new cards for us to look at and preview, all of them are ass. So none of them really make me think too much about them. So there's not really anything here that excites me.
Yeah, Aurelia, the Law Above, it's not a very powerful card.
One of the softest stacks pieces I've ever seen.
Yeah, to trigger it, you have to like attack with 3 or more creatures, and or 5 or more, right?
Right. Whenever, well, that's the thing is that, and it can be like, it is universal. It's whenever a player attacks with
Oh,
3 or
okay.
more,
Yeah.
or whenever a player attacks with 5 or more, which, so like you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I'm going to swing. They're going to swing at me with 3 creatures while Aurelia's out. I will draw a card. Awesome. You know, like that's awesome. I just don't see that happening all that often. The thing is, it doesn't care about whether or not, and this is unilateral to like, it actually gets better with Commander, where it's like, I guess if you're playing against Timna the Weaver, this, like most of the time, Timna will put out 3 creatures and then swing all 3 at different players. And so, like, there you get it. It doesn't matter if you swing them out at different people. It's not whenever a player attacks one player. It's whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures. So there is that potential of it being that. It's just 5 mana. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Like for the cost, it's not great. Like it's 5 mana. You get Flying Vigilance, Haste on a 4/4 body, which is an okay rate, but the abilities aren't doing a lot.
no, yeah, and I guess it's just a rare. It's not a mythic here. I think this is the first time that Aurelia really hasn't been the mythic or the chase card from a set in, at least in like a standard format.
Yeah, you know what? That might be my expectation. Like
Yeah.
where my expectations are set on like her power level.
Extra combats, like buffing and boosting creatures, or being just like for the set mechanic. Aurelia usually is like exemplifies what that set mechanic is. And this time we're just getting something that's pretty generic, which is fine. It's just, I think it's in limited when you're going into a pre-release or whatever, this thing's going to win you games. And I'm glad that they're still designing cards like that aren't just like, you know, being thrown into the pool to be amazing in standard. And, you know, like the whole limited format is still very well balanced. And I think that's where this is like, oh, my opponent can't crack back at me, otherwise I get card advantage. Oh, my, you know, if they really crack back at me with 5 or more creatures, then you know, they're gonna take damage, and then I'm gonna gain life. So it incentivizes your opponents in limited to stay home instead of like swinging out at you. So they're gonna have to build something either really big on one creature, but a mirror match. Whoever has Aurelia in Boros is gonna win that game.
Yeah, oh, for sure. It's a limited bomb.
Totally. We do get.
You know what?
Oh, go ahead.
What's up? I was going to say a card that I do think is pretty good is from the Clue drop, I think. Senator Peacock. Did you see this one?
Yeah, 3 and 2 blue legendary creature, human advisor. Artifacts you control are clues in addition to their other types, and have pay 2, sack it, draw a card. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, target creature can't be blocked this turn. Yeah, I think this is crazy.
Yeah, does the layering work for that to combo off Academy Manufacturer? Just like anytime you're creating a treasure? Or anytime you're creating an artifact?
Yeah, you could.
Okay, yeah,
Wow.
There's something right there.
Artifacts you control are clues in addition to their other types, and have blah this, blah that. So whenever you would create a clue, well, Academy Manufacturer is going to be a replacement effect. So it won't be whenever you like create like something that's not a clue or treasure, you know.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Is that how the layering works? Because they're not entering, aren't they entering as clues, but it's a replacement effect?
Yeah, so they're not entering as clues. They'll enter as whatever they are created as, and then when they're on the battlefield, they'll be seen as clues.
Got it. Bummer.
So, yeah, kind of just like a blanket thing. They enter the battlefield as clues, but they aren't created as clues or as treasures.
Oh, is that the text on Academy Manufacturer?
Yeah, it's whenever you would create, it replaces that effect. So
got it.
Yeah, no, this is great. Notably, it is a legendary advisor. So a lot of people are going to be going crazy with their persistent petitioners, because this is, I think, one of the first. I know that a lot of people like Grand Arbiter as that commander, you know, because you get access to white as well. But this is a mono blue option for persistent petitioner decks.
Okay, that's something.
Oh, and just everyone beware. Watch, if you have Shocklands and you have any value in them and you want them to maintain their value, I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. We're also getting borderless versions of all of the Shocklands in the clue set, and we're also getting old border treatments of Shocklands in the actual set. So I don't know if Shocklands are coming back to standard with this set or not. Like, whenever we go back to Ravnica, we see them in some form. So that's just speculation. One thing we do get back.
I do think, though, like, for the health of the game, kind of they should be printed into the ground.
Oh, totally.
I mean, it sucks for people that invested in them, but, like, people need access to them.
It sucks for people like me who bought the Unfinity Galaxy Foil Shocklands thinking that, oh, wow, these are going to be a great investment for my collection. Dude.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it hurt. But I don't have them anymore. So that's great. They can't go down any further since I don't have them. But we are getting one card back into standard, which I'm super excited for. We're getting Lightning Helix back.
Yeah, Lightning Helix, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Yes, and Shock, because Play with Fire wasn't strong enough. All right, that it was too strong. Sorry. Lightning Helix deals 3 damage to any target, and you gain 3 life. It was amazing. It was a powerhouse in Modern for a while before Modern Horizons started like peeking its head around the corner.
Yeah, it's a great card.
Yeah, and we're also getting a really cool piece of white removal, which I don't think this is a reprint, but it's amazing. It's called Not on My Watch. 1 in a white, instant, exile target attacking creature. Full stop.
White has, I think, similar effects. It's mechanically similar to other cards.
Yeah, in the past, I think they've had stuff that for this same mana value that has been like deal 5 damage to target attacking creature.
Yeah, usually something like that, like 4 damage, 5 damage.
Yeah, and now we get
put a stun counter on it.
Yeah, which I think is just evergreen now. We're never not going to see stun counters because we do see them again in the set with the card Out Cold, a common that can't be countered, that taps up to 2 target creatures and puts a stun counter on each of them, and then you investigate. Yeah, there's.
Do you know if Crashing Footfalls is being printed into standard, or is that like a attached to another product?
So this is something that it's labeled special guest on Mythic Spoiler, but this is in the same vein as the Mana Crypts from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. So these are not standard legal, but you do have the potential of pulling them out of like I think it's just collector's boosters, maybe set boosters as well.
Who knows what products do what?
Yeah, exactly. But it's the same as the Mana Crypt from Lost Caverns. So we're going to be getting even more cards that are getting like valuable like reprints. Like I think this card is still turning out to be very, very good in Modern. So whoever is still playing Rhinos in Modern will get a cool new artwork, which I actually think it's pretty sick. If you haven't seen it yet, go out and check it out. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, no, I love the artwork on it. Like that's what grabbed my attention.
Totally. And really, I'm not one to buy products, like at least not in a mass. Like I might get a pack or 2 every once in a while to feed that, to scratch that itch. But I would feel really lucky to have gotten something like that in a pack if I decided to splurge one day. It's pretty cool that they're doing that. It would feel
great to pull that, right?
Totally. But yeah, so we're seeing some new stuff from Ravnica, Murders at Karlov Manor. I will say that we have gotten our sleuth, Alquist Proft, Master Sleuth, 1 a white and a blue, legendary creature, human detective. Not totally busted for a mythic, but it is a 3/3 with vigilance. When Alquist Proft, Master Sleuth, enters the battlefield, investigate, and then it has Azor's ability. Pay X white, blue, blue, tap, sack a clue, you draw X cards and gain X life. So a much lower floor for that ability to get in the door by putting Alquist out for 3 mana, but still the same activation cost plus the addition of having to sacrifice a clue. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay, I think, is where I'm landing on that.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it for the stuff that we're seeing right away. I will say in Pauper, Demand Answers is really good, but that's it. All right.
Yeah, do you get the feeling that the set is gonna have something that is attractive to you, like based on what you know about like the commander decks or anything like that?
You know, I have been looking at these cards here. Like, I don't see anything right away. I'm actually not interested in any of these cards. That's, ultimately why I'm not super, like, you usually get caught up in the hype or something like that. And this one I might just let slide right by and just pay attention to whatever comes up on Arena or might be valuable.
Have you been grinding on Arena?
I've just been playing Historic Brawl here and there.
Okay.
Because
fair
I
enough.
finally built Sovereign Okinekahao, and I love it. It's amazing. And I think that we were talking about in Brew Buddies or Shower Thoughts, we were talking about stacks decks that can actually win without being 5 colors. And we were talking about Elevir a little bit. And then I thought, whoa, Okinekahao would actually be crazy as a finisher in that deck because like most of your creatures are going to be plus X, with the number of enchantments you have. I've got high hopes for it, but I love the card. I've been having a lot of fun with it on Arena.
Okay, fair enough. Would you ever want to do like a deep dive on it?
On Elevir or on Arena?
No, on this deck you're playing.
Oh, dude, yes. Let's do one soon. Let's definitely do one soon because I've plenty of experience with it now and have noticed some some of the weaknesses and it's majority strength, but I've noticed a few weaknesses as well because it's got a little bit of gaps where you can work in. The Ward 2 does help, but there's some really cool cards that you can play that take advantage of that ability, like Awakening of V2 Ghazi. Crazy card in that deck. So
okay,
yeah, we'll talk about it
exciting to hear about it.
Yeah, in the near future. But today, our main topic, card draw. Is it really that good? Is it really the greatest mechanic in the game?
Go ahead. Is it? Is it good? Has it ever been good?
Is it? It is. It is. Let's just. I'm just going to go forth and say that it is absolutely the best mechanic in the game.
It's the best thing you can do in the game besides winning.
Yes,
is drawing. Yeah.
Yeah, having more information. That's ultimately what we as players are all striving for in order to give ourselves the best chance of winning the game. Is drawing more cards gives you more information, gives you more options, and gives you a better chance. Now, in recent memory, we've been seeing more and more cards introduced into the meta or created just in general that, punish card draw a little bit more than we've seen in the past, making it less good. Let's just be real. It doesn't make it less good because some of these pieces are situational and you really have to go either dig them out and put them onto the battlefield and then they're subject to removal or whatever. It doesn't make card draw worse.
It also obviously doesn't make it worse because the number one thing people still want to do is draw cards. It just punishes it.
100%. And they aren't, it just really depends how greedy they are. And most players at the highest level are greedy because life doesn't matter until it's gone or unless you're playing ad nos. So a few of the cards, and one of the cards that we actually brought up on our top 10, 2 cards on our top 10. Oh, wait, three cards. On our top 10.
3 cards.
CDH.
4 cards.
Now, it's definitely 3. It might expand to 4. But
okay,
3 cards. Let's start with the One Ring because it doesn't necessarily punish card draw. It instigates it, and it is one of the best card draw engines in the game right now. It punishes you very minimally for drawing cards with the bird encounters. I love this card, and it's can see play everywhere. I wanted to know just how prevalent it had become, and so I was trying to look into some statistics lately at like modern, like more recent tournaments, like CDH tournaments, and how prevalent this card is. And I went through the top 16 of the two most recent tournaments on CDH, top 16, and there were 5% of decks without it. That meant 95% of decks in the top 16 were playing it. And it doesn't surprise me, but it is shocking a little bit to see how prevalent it has become already. It is being considered an automatic include into pretty much every deck that can afford to run it.
Well, I mean, if Rhystic Study was available to run in every deck, would you run it in every deck?
100%. You know,
okay.
Yeah, that's like easy. Yes, there are so many strategies that actually falter because they sacrifice card draw for power in some way, you know, like, and if those strategies that were powerful by sacrificing card draw also had card draw, let's say with a colorless Rhystic Study, then yes, like you just like Hapatra is a deck that, like, I love it. I love playing it, and I think it's explosive, but the one thing that Hapatra lacks is the ability to draw cards. And it is in a color set that has trouble generating card advantage, unless you're playing, you know, unless you're using tutors, in which case you're still not generating card advantage. You're just, you know, sort of going adjacent.
It's 1-for-1.
Yes.
Kinda.
Yeah. 1-for-1ing a lot of cards. And the One Ring gives that deck life by allowing you to see more and potentially combo more quickly.
Mm-hmm. Well, can I ask you this? Like, instead of saying, okay, the One Ring is ubiquitous and it's in every deck, does that actually open up the playing field? Because then now every color has access to card draw and like excellent card draw. And maybe it enables new strategies that, like, you know, the missing piece was access to great card draw.
Yeah, I will say that the best decks just got better with it. The one thing I think that it does,
but I mean that's going to happen every time. Like, you know, if a great card is printed, it's going to make the best decks better because they're the best decks already and they play all the best cards. But, like, you know, they're already drawing a lot of cards. It's just another effect that they're already getting in that deck.
Right.
It's not adding anything new to it. Whereas, like, some of these lower tier decks, it's adding something new that the deck was, like, missing, which is super efficient card draw.
Yeah, and it's massive. Usually it's a massive addition. It plays a huge part in how those decks play and how they play out. So, yes, I will say that it does close the gap slightly, ever so slightly. I'm not sure if it, like, really as much as I think it does, but
yeah, I mean, it's maybe a non-negligible effect, let's say.
Yeah, I think it's just hard to happen upon it. Like, if you mulligan and you mulligan aggressively to pick it up or have the mana to be able to play it, yeah, it's going to make a huge difference in how the game plays out for you. But
I mean, white has access to 1 mana and 2 mana artifact tutors. Helps you get it.
Totally. Yeah, Enlightened Tutor, I think it might, unless you're playing a very particular strategy like Food Chain or whatever, it might just be, it might just be the best new target for Enlightened Tutor. I think that's pretty easy to say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Otherwise, you know, it's like early in the game, you might go for a mana crypt to help give you a boost. But other than that, like, if you already have the mana available, or if you're already looking like, oh man, it's a super explosive hand, like Gemstone Caverns and a few other things, yeah, I'm going to tutor for 1 ring before I even start my first turn. That seems, like a really great option. But yes, card draw is amazing. And so we got a new card, the 1 ring, that absolutely allows every deck to draw, on an equal playing field. There are other cards you have to include. So, if, you know, obviously there are some cards and commanders that have card draw staple to them, so they have a little bit of advantage. They're a little bit better for it. But this does allow a lot of decks to sort of like step up and play in the big boy arena, you know, or in into their big boy boots. But the two other cards in our top 10 that I think is more where this discussion is going to, like, this is where our discussion is going to surround, is punishing card draw. And Shieldred, the Apocalypse, might just be one of the greatest additions to CDH. If you're willing to play a chunky mama for 4 mana, one of the greatest additions to CDH that I've seen in a long time. On Saturday, I was at Laughing Dragon MTG in Issaquah celebrating their 1-year anniversary. Huge shout out. Congratulations, guys. It was a lot of fun.
Best.
Yeah. Marcus, huge shout. But I sat down, played a bunch of games, and one thing that I noticed is that when Shieldred hits the battlefield, the entire game sort of focuses in around it and says, this is harder to deal with than I thought.
You're suggesting that we maybe undervalued it. Like,
yes.
It should have been top 5 probably.
It could have crept up there. You know, it's obviously not cracking 1 or 2. I think we are pretty solid on, 1 and 2, but I think it could definitely rise up in the ranks, and you could see it more and more at the competitive level, because as we're seeing is decks are becoming chunkier because the value in chunky cards is actually higher or greater than what we had previously anticipated. We thought, keeping everything low to the ground is the way to be, because you want to be moving fast. You have to be, efficient. And we're learning that if you mulligan just to get a great start, or mulligan for card advantage, or mulligan for mana that allows you to get to 4 mana, then it's actually kind of amazing what you can do at what is the highest level. So Shieldred, once it comes out, each opponent is going to lose 2 life when they draw a card. Now, having access to the One Ring, everyone having it, is excellent, because they are going to be punished even more so for tapping and activating and drawing cards. And Rhystic Study is also punished for it, and you just are likely not going to pay. You're going to make them choose, because Rhystic Study is a May, they can choose whether or not to do it. Most people are going to, but it gets to a certain point where if you're allowed to possess Shieldred for a certain amount of time, life totals are going to dwindle very quickly. And so now...
Yeah, I mean, those little 2 life pings that add up every time that, like, you're drawing cards. And also, it's gaining life for the player that controls Shieldred.
Yeah, in creating just a bigger gap. And I think that a lot of people will say that, like, well, life doesn't matter until it's gone. And, like, I say that. And in CDH, having a ton of life doesn't really do anything for you. It just keeps you from dying from combat damage or from other things like One Ring triggers. So if you have the One Ring and Shieldred out, just freaking GG's, because you're going to be picking up so many cards in order to protect it that if your opponents try to interact with it at all, it's a fruitless effort, and you're going to do everything you can to protect it, because it's the one thing keeping you alive from killing yourself with the One Ring. Now, 2 life doesn't sound like it's that much. We know when we see it in Standard that it is 10% of your, or it's 10% of your life total, which is massive. And in CDH, we're seeing it as a 5% loss. So how many, and we see like Orcish Bowmasters, which is the other card from our top 10 that punishes card draw. It creates technically card advantage but with the Orc army, but when it comes in and it starts shooting people in the face, 1 damage is, relatively unnoticeable. A lot of people will just brush it off, and then when their life total gets low enough, then they'll start to respect it, use a piece of removal on it, get it out of there. But 2 life seems to be just the magic number, and I think we learned how powerful it is with Talion, that when they hit something and you draw a card, they lose 2 life, it starts to become noticeable. So we're finally seeing a card that does enough to justify playing against a Rhystic Study One Ring meta. Its effect is significant enough, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, and you've played some games with it and against it. How many like triggers is each player seeing from that? Like, like what are you saying on average each player is going to lose from it?
Each player on average, I would say, was losing 4 life a turn. Like, and
Oof,
yeah,
oof. Okay.
because like they need to find an answer for it, and it's one, pretty much the only way you're going to be able to do that is by drawing cards. And if you tutor
Hmm.
something, and like tutor it to the top, vampiric tutor, you're going to have to draw a card, get that thing right back, right in your hand. So a lot of people were just walking right into it. The thing is that I've never seen it before. So this is like a guy played a One Ring right into it. So he just saw the Shieldred and he's like, I really got to find an answer for Shieldred. I'll cast a One Ring. Taps it,
Oof.
and then 2 or 3 turns later, he's like, tap, draw 3, lose 6. And it's like, yeah, it is a significant chunk. And when they got down to 10, it was like, I can't tap the One Ring because it's at 4 now, and I will literally take the One Ring damage, untap it, draw 5 die.
Hmm.
And like, it's one of those things where it gets people low enough. Shieldred is there to, well, just put pressure on in a way that we haven't really seen before. Where, like, usually when people get low on life totals with Adnos or whatever, it's like, whatever, I'm at 2 life. I Adnos down this far. I have enough in my hand to win the game. Usually requires some
Hmm.
sort of card draw after that.
I mean, it puts a clock on the table.
Totally. Yeah. And that's why it's significant enough to have a discussion about. I think it's with all the things we're seeing now with ways to like punish card draw. This one I think is the most significant. Now, Orcish Bowmasters is much lower to the ground, which is why I think it still exceeds Shieldred in value because
Yeah, I think Orcish Bowmasters is like auto include versus Sholdred is kind of you're probably going to include it. Is that kind of the difference?
right. It's one of those things where people will eventually come around. Bowmaster, if you're in black, auto include. And we sort of said it last week where we view Bowmaster's ability as like a black Dockside, the black version of Dockside. And you're just sitting there and you're like, well, there's no possible way that Shieldred could ever be that. And I this is a card where I think we're just rethinking where the top end is in CDH. There has been a lot of discussion on, like if you're playing something for 4 mana, then it like absolutely has to be critical to what you're doing or it has to be a combo piece. Like if you're going for Dockside loops, like Temur Sabertooth and Emil the Blessed are usually the top end, like
Hmm.
because they're critical to the combo. Now, to have something at 4 mana that is just value and is meant to punish card draw, which people have usually been able to go about unabated unless, counter magic is involved.
Well, I mean, it has kind of like gravity to it, like because it's saying like, okay, don't listen. We're all trying to draw cards, and you can draw as many cards as you want. But if you don't get that answer soon, and you don't like do it, and you're not drawing cards efficiently, then you're gonna lose this game. Like, it changes the format a little bit.
Totally. Because there are other cards that have been printed in the past that also have been, known to punish card draw or card draw outside of the first one in each of your draw steps. Notion Thief, one of them, still a great card, still seen in plenty of deck lists. Consecrated Sphinx. And as players sit there and they rethink what the top end is of a deck, like 6 mana becomes justified after a certain point if the game
Mhm.
goes long enough and you're running reanimator strategies.
But those two cards, notably, and the other effects like that, they kind of trade you cards for cards, or like
Yes.
take away your ability to draw cards. What we're doing differently here is trading life for cards and forcing that effect on you.
Yeah, most people would say that, yeah, I'll trade life for cards. We see it with Necropotence. But
Yeah,
this
but
is
necropotence and adnals are only good when you're making that decision. Like when you're in control of that decision.
yeah,
Like it feels real bad to have necropotence out and not get your draw step, and also have a low enough life total that you have to really think about how many cards you're going to grab with it.
totally. And that's the biggest thing is control, and you have no control over this, and that's the same thing that Bowmasters takes away from you is the ability to wheel. Like I see Wheel of Fortune less and less. I haven't seen it. I've seen it. Let's see, in that one Obnix list game, that was the last time I saw it in a deck list, and I haven't seen it since because Bowmasters is so oppressive. But this is now we're in an era where and it might just be the Pacific Northwest meta at the moment, but now that we're seeing stack stacks, 5-color stack stacks most notably, that are rising to the occasion to interact with and stop a turbo meta from existing, they're pushing games into the deeper turns where politics is more important, and that's where people win games. And so they've put another piece into the mix with Shieldred that says, I'm going to take away control of, your way out of the game, which is usually drawing cards or getting card advantage in some sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what I like about it. In when now we're, I don't know. I think we do have some pioneers in the Pacific Northwest as far as contributions to CDH and how the format is developing. I wonder how far and how influential like this chunky new format that seems to be, well, I'm not sure if it's beginning here, but it has been flourishing here for a while. I wonder how effective it's going to be at the national level. We're already seeing content
Gotta be
creators.
honest with you. Like I look at EDH top 16 sometimes, and I'll look at tournament results, and I'll be like, what? Where did these what is this collection of deck lists?
Yeah,
Like the meta can be that different.
totally.
So at the same time, I'm like as interested on seeing what effects, if there's something similar going on. Like, because you can see, like I said, this card has gravity. You can see it having gravity. Like it's obviously good. And as soon as as soon as it sees more play, I think there's going to be, it's pretty ubiquitous already. It's going to see even more play.
Yeah, there was. So I was talking to Antonio about playing Rogsai, and he was just saying that like Rogsai is you take your shot, and if your shot is interacted with at all, you just lose. You're just not able to do anything for the rest of the game. So when I hear that, I go, well, is it a matter like is politics influencing like the game more than we think? Like where it's like people are a little bit more afraid to take their shot with Rogsai or to play these turbo decks in general if only one piece of interaction is what is enough to stop them from winning the game. I really think that sort of encourages a meta that strives for the mid game to shoot their shot or find a gap and really thrive there. And that might be just the way that the game moves. There will still be turbo decks out there for for the time being, and will find a way to flourish once again. But I think now we're seeing that people are more encouraged to thrive in the mid game with cards like Shieldred and the One Ring instead of pursuing turbo strategies.
Yeah, a lot of these cards, I think they're super, super powerful, but I don't feel like they're overpowered in a bad way because what they do is open things up. Like I was saying earlier, like the One Ring opens things up. Shieldred, even though it's forcing that effect on people, like it opens things up by like making it more mid-range in terms of the meta.
Yeah, and the Saturday night I saw so many cloning effects, and this is our chance to shout Flesh Duplicate, which is a great card.
Yeah, 2 blue enters as a copy of any creature on the battlefield and grants it Vanishing 3.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's another sort of phantasmal image. It should have been in our honorable mentions and potentially cracked the top 10 of cards in CDH from 2023. It really is.
Yeah, I think we forgot to talk about all the Doctor Who cards, basically.
Yeah. And it's a great card. And the thing is, I didn't play a single game on Saturday without seeing it. So that tells you how good it is and how people are valuing it. But I put Shieldred out, and one of almost the first reaction was for a player to create a clone of Shieldred so that they didn't die to it, and so that the two other players lost 4 life instead of 2.
Ooh.
So
yeah, that's nasty.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm gonna clone Shieldred, and then we had to burn our removal on the clones of Shieldred so that we could control the game and control how much life was being lost. So it just got out of hand. I think in one game, Shieldred was cloned 4 times, and we had to use the removal on it, just like on the clone, because a phantasmal image.
That's a 8 life swing every card.
Yes.
Oh wow.
And me possessing Shieldred and the One Ring allowed me to basically go up to 50 life, and everyone was at 15 or less. So being able to possess the card advantage and the thing that is controlling your opponents or forcing your opponents to lose life is just, it's a different level of high that I haven't experienced before, because mostly I go for combo kills. This was just sheer value, and that is what I think I was not seeing by playing Naya all the time. Was I was very much focused on walking one specific line to combo off and win the game. I wasn't focused on grinding value, interacting, and just keeping the game going. And
yeah, man, it's a different way of playing the game for sure.
Yeah, I think that the mentality that
do you think as a deck builder that's a direction you're going to head?
Oh, totally. We've been talking on Brew Buddies with Guy about this Indominus Rex Dino Dredge build, and it's actually really interesting because it's a strategy that now that I've contributed to the deck list has become so much more interesting. Now that these are colors that I'm normally not into, but the fact that you draw cards off of the ETB trigger, it gets whatever counters are put on it, you draw cards equal to the number. We've just been talking about all these different cards that I otherwise would not have a place in any CDH deck that now contribute to just grinding value and drawing cards with Indominus Rex. So things like Master Biomancer or Master Chef or stuff like that. So, and now that we've been talking about Elevir more, stuff like that, I'm just interested in, or I'm developing interest in alternate strategies that focus on grinding card value, drawing cards, and then also punishing players for doing the same thing.
That's exciting. I'm excited to see where you go with your deck list, because obviously, the way you build, you have a very unique perspective on the game. But you've been stuck in Naya colors forever. I have never seen you tap a land to produce black mana. Never seen it happen. Rarely see you play blue. It's going to be interesting to see what you come up with, for sure.
Yeah, because I think ultimately for every player out there, you're all unique in your own ways and how you decide what cards and what slots to rotate. And that's just the thing I'm excited to get back to is that grind, man, that experience of taking slotting cards in and out for the most effective strategies so that I can either, shoot my gap or fly under the radar, so to speak. And I think Indominus Rex is really cool because you can actually play Shieldred. And if you discard it to its effect, it gives Indominus Rex a death touch counter and you draw a card. So there is outside value if you're not able to cast it and you'd rather go for the Rex. Pretty cool stuff. I'm stoked for it.
We forgot to talk about another card, I think, and then that's it.
Woo! What card did we forget?
We forgot to mention Lotho in our countdown.
Oh, yes, we did forget to mention Lotho. That definitely is a top 10 card in CDH from 2023, and we are so sorry for not getting it getting it right the first time. God, that card has just contributed to partially to the conversation we're having now, where it allows big mana decks to exist because it comes in at such a low cost, 1 white, 1 black, and whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, you create a treasure and lose 1 life. So really great mana advantage, and I think that Lotho is going to be something we're going to see for a long time. It's one of those auto includes if you're in those colors, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a card that I've been playing since it dropped, and I don't know why we forgot to talk about it.
Yeah, it was weird. I don't know why it slips through the cracks. Like it was weird, really, to like look back on it and be like, oh, that's a big whiff. Oops. But that's okay. We got it back. We got it on the way back around. There's still time to fix things. Maybe. Anyway, Ritter, anything else you want to talk about considering card draw itself?
No, man, it's still the best thing to do in the game. I think it is rad that the One Ring, I really do feel like it opens things up a little bit to enable strategies that, like, there's so many color combinations where you just don't have access to great card draw, or like, you have your commander, chosen to do one thing, but it doesn't have card draw attached to it. And the One Ring is just super, super efficient. The comparison I made is like, if you could play colorless Rhystic Study in every deck, would you? And that's where I am on it. Like, I think that's a good thing. And I also feel the same way about Sheoldred. I feel like it's a super powerful effect, but at the same time, it's the universal effect that it's having on the meta is, I think, good. I think it's opening things up instead of closing things.
Yeah, and I think for as long as I've been interested in CDH, which I'm still relatively new to it, I think when new sets would drop, I would just sort of like pick 1 or 2 cards out and like sort of like give them a shot. And I think I'm looking back and realizing that there are more cards in each set that have value in different ways because of the way the meta has changed, or the way that the speed of the game has changed with the introduction of things like the One Ring. Because protection, until your next turn, turns out really good.
Yeah, we did not talk about that at all, did we?
No, but that's fine. This isn't a One Ring episode. This is a card draw and a card advantage and how we punish that.
Controversial or not controversial opinion, every episode is kind of going to be a One Ring episode from here on out.
Yeah. Until it stops being, well, one of the top 5 cards in CDH, or just in Commander in general. Yeah, we probably will mention it pretty often. It's amazing. And another thing that the protection does, I noticed, it stops blue farm players from punching you and getting card advantage. So you don't have to hold up any blockers. You just throw the One Ring down, and when they go to swing at you with Tymna, they get nothing off of it, or if they swing at you with anything. So it does. What?
You convinced me. The thing that's good is also good.
Yeah. It's even gooder than you thought.
Yeah. Extra good.
All right. Well, that does it for us here at the Moxstars podcast. This has been wonderful. Ritter, I think we really kicked some ass today.
We kicked all kinds of ass.
Yeah, up and down, dude. Up and down.
I came here to chew bubblegum and kick some ass. And you know what? I got a pack of Juicy Fruit here that as soon as I get off mic, I'm going to start chewing it.
I got the Hubba Bubba over here, and I actually have a pack of that Big League Chew.
Ooh, Big League Chew.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one in a while, have you?
I haven't, no. That is one of those classic terrible gums that is exciting, but loses flavor almost immediately.
Like 15 seconds. And
yeah.
That's it. That and bubble tape. Bubble tape was
bubble tape, fruit stripe gum. Like all the exciting bubble gums were just like all flash, no substance.
What it was like to be a 90s kid. Sheesh. All right.
Are we expanding the brand to include bubblegum on top of Dr. Pepper?
Big League Chew exclusively.
Okay, got it.
Or bubble tape. Which one do you want to
bubble
do?
tape, yeah.
All right.
I would prefer bubble tape, I think.
Well, okay. I'm in. I'm all in on the bubble tape.
How about we poll the Discord?
Yeah. We'll actually pull the Discord and see what you guys think. And that's also a great plug to join our Discord server if you haven't already. We're popping off on there, having a lot of discussion lately about, well, just Magic in general. And now we're going to be having a lot of discussion about what is the crown jewel of bubblegums. And if you'd like to support the show, you can do so by finding us on YouTube, where you can like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more notifications. You can support us on Patreon. Huge shout out to all of our patrons. Thank you so much for supporting the show. You can join our supporter tier, where you can become an official Pepperhead. And on the Discord server, get access to the Shower Thoughts and Dr. Pepper channels. You can also find us on all major podcasting platforms.
Evan, can we I know we're closing up the episode. Can we loop back around to something real quick?
Dude, take it away.
Yeah, on the list of bubblegums that can get absolutely fucked, I just want to add Bazooka Joe. That it sucks. Rock hard, no flavor. Like, what flavor is there? Gone immediately. Fuck Bazooka Joe.
What about that bubblegum that was exclusively thrown out at parades? Like, it was like a yellow wrapper.
Yeah, it's like Tootsie Roll shaped, kind of. Right?
Yeah, it was kind of a little bit fatter, but it was definitely, you unwrapped it, had yellow and blue, and yep. And you unwrapped it, and it was just a rock.
That's you're not meant to eat that. That's crowd control candy.
Yeah.
Like, they're whipping that rock hard candy at people's heads to keep them back. It's not meant for human consumption.
I was mistaken this whole time. All right. I'm glad we circled back for that.
Yeah, no, that was valuable insight, right?
Yeah, 100%. On that note, bye-bye.
See ya.